Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Tech Talk Thursday. Let me just turn this volume down and get the mixing right. How is everybody today? Well, it's a big week for us. We have our live webinar coming up tomorrow, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Martin has also been working on all kinds of stuff on his store, and Martin's also had a little bit of technical challenges this week with microphones breaking, so he might sound a little bit different. But we're live and we're working, and we're going live to many different places today and trying out more things with Restream. I'm pushing the limits of Restream tonight, but welcome everybody. Anyway, so let's bring on Mr. McKenna. Hello, Martin. How you doing? Sounding a little bit different today,
Hey. Maybe slightly different today. So I'm on my backup microphone. I had a power cut earlier in the week, and as a result of the power cut, it would appear that my cloud lifter just went pop on my SM7B. So the cloud lifter is just a little device that increases the gain on your microphone, and I turned up to chat to Neil earlier in the week, and it was kind of like, oh, I can't hear you. Why can't I hear you? I think maybe the cloud lifter's gone pop. So I have ordered a new one, and it's due for delivery today by Amazon.
Oh.
So inevitably, it's going to appear during this live stream. So
All
if
right.
I have to run off to answer the door
No problem.
during the live stream, then you'll know where I'm going. But as a result, I've swapped microphones to my portable microphone, which is a Shure 88 plus or something like that.
You're actually using that little
88.
that tiny little microphone.
Tiny little microphone.
Sounds all right.
Yeah, it's a tiny little microphone that's great for being out and about and recording stuff on the fly. But I don't generally use it for most of my live streams, but we'll see what it sounds like this evening. If anybody out there has got any opinions on what I'm sounding like and whether I'm any different than normal, then do let me know. It's very, very difficult to judge for yourself whether there's any difference in the sound quality. But yeah, the microphone is about this big rather than this big. So
and where is the microphone right now? It's just here, right? It's just below where you normally have it. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah.
It's just out
good.
of shot, which is my preference. It's on a very light boom arm because it weighs nothing at all, and therefore actually it's really, really useful if you're standing up or moving about, because it is such a lightweight microphone, and the quality is pretty good as well. One thing that I have found, and this happened to me twice, is that when I'm plugging the microphone in, twice it's now happened to me that the cable's gone into the microphone and effectively broken the connection. So I sent them back to Shure, and they sent me 2 new ones. So I think it might be a manufacturing issue or design issue there, but
could well be.
But that's what I'm running with today. I doubt I'm going to plug in the cloud lifter halfway through. We're not going to go down that route.
Let's not do that, because you'll have to be changing microphones as well. Well, today we're going to be talking a little bit about webinars. Topic pretty close to our hearts. As I mentioned, we've got a webinar going on tomorrow, and we wanted to just go through some things that we've learned with webinars and stuff like that, and just really talk about some questions and things. So if you've got any comments, questions about webinars, if you think about hosting your own, have you done webinars in the past? How successful have they been? We've got a few things that we want to talk about today. So let's just say a quick hello to Dragon, who's in the house, otherwise known as Homesick Mac. Where did that light just shoot to? Where did that go? Whoa! Do you see that flying by? Where did that go?
Something flew by.
Something flew by. That's never happened before. Have you ever seen a comet just like whip by before? Okay. Well, I'm going to have to fix this now. Just give me 1 second. Live. What happened there? I tested comments before. What's happening? Please talk to me, somebody. Okay, so...
Oh, it just flew by again.
I honestly don't know where that comment has flown to. Okay, I'm just going to have to bring in a new comment here. That's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. Hang on. So there's people asking questions and I can't even show them. Have you ever seen that happen before, Martin, where your comment just flies by at a ridiculous speed?
Well, obviously you've joined tonight, people, good people of the world in Radioland, to see our expert
Oh, there it
running of a
is.
show.
There it
Oh,
is.
there's a comment somewhere.
It actually was sat at the top. It flew off and sat at the top. Okay, so let me just replace that placeholder now. Goodness me, what happened there? All right, so let's try that again. So Dragon is here. Hi. You're having tech
Hey.
issues too. Good. It's not just us today then. And you are trying to get your AirPods working. That's fine. Hey, Roy is also here. You are not able to think of a question. You're all out of questions so far. All right. Well, if something comes up, let us know. But if you've ever run a webinar before or thinking of running a webinar, let us know. And if you're ever trying to get comments on the screen more effectively than I am, let me know about that too. So let's start with webinar topics, shall we? So we've been running, this will be our third webinar tomorrow. And we'll talk about that and give you the links on how to get there. And I've attended many webinars in the past, but never really hosted many of them. Martin's had a lot of experience of in-person webinars as well as online ones. So really, when we thought about doing our webinars, what were some of the things that we sort of mulled over in terms of topics? Because, you know, you can pick a topic about absolutely anything, but what's sort of our decision criteria for when we're thinking about webinars? In your experience and ones that you've sort of hosted and worked with, where do people start? If you want to do a webinar, where shall we start with that?
Well, I think a good place to start is, you can go visit AI and ask it for a couple of suggestions based upon your profile or something along those lines, or give it some ideas, and it will give you a good starting point for topics of interest, because you can just simply ask it which are the hot topics at the moment in a particular industry or a particular forum or for particular job roles, and that will give you a great starting point. For us, I think we already had a fairly good idea of what we wanted to talk about in terms of general ideas, but I think one of the key things was that we wanted to bring in 2 people at a time as guests and have them do a short presentation. So our format is always a bit of an intro from myself and Neil, a bit of an intro to our guests, then we'll have one guest talk for 30 minutes, then we'll have a Q&A with everybody on the Q&A, then the second guest comes in, talks for 30 minutes, and then we have some further Q&A. And we're finding that that works really well as a way to spread the sort of distribute the workload for our guests, because they only have 30 minutes to talk through, which is not long. Anybody can come and talk for 30 minutes on their chosen subject. And bear this in mind, folks, if it's your chosen subject, you will know more than your audience do. So don't worry, 30 minutes is going to be interesting to absolutely everybody who's watching you, because they won't know as much as you do. So that format for us is working really well. So 30 minutes, some chat, 30 minutes, some chat. And it's as simple as that. And as a presenter, what you always want to do is tell a story. So give it a beginning, a middle, and an end. To start with, align with your audience. So perhaps talk about problems which you know they have, so that you're immediately aligning with your audience by saying, hey, do you have this problem? I don't know, it could be, as we're doing tomorrow, we're talking about building communities. Do you have problems getting people to your community? Do you have problems engaging them once they're at your community? How do you manage to do that? So that is your alignment to start with your audience. Then what you want to do is start to talk about, wouldn't it be great if we could do X, Y, and Z, which are going to start addressing the problems. And then perhaps you're demoing addressing the problems, or giving some hints and tips of addressing the problems. And then what you do as the third action is you replay to them what were the challenges, and then replay to them what were the solutions, and then say, if you think that was good, let's have a call to action, which is perhaps you joining me on another webinar, or me coming and doing a presentation at your site, or engaging with more of your people, or as we're doing tomorrow, getting more people onto our community. So story, problem, alignment, repurpose the content. And if we're looking at something, and this goes back to a sales model called spin or solution selling. Solution selling's got a 9-block sales model, and what you're always doing at the beginning is aligning with people, and then if you want to take that a step further, you're magnifying the problem as well. So you're saying, right, so you do have that problem. Who does that affect? And if that affects lots of management in your company, well, if it affects lots of management in your company and they're getting incorrect information, could they may be making the wrong decisions because you're not giving them right information? And then you make it into a bigger problem, which makes the audience more interested in engaging in the solution as well. So there are multiple layers to this, but at the bottom level, just make it beginning, middle, end.
Yeah, that's great. And I think what we try to do as well is, because we brought in industry experts in a particular field, these are some topics and subjects that we've either covered in previous live streams, we've either done sort of dedicated on-demand videos of them, or we've sort of written about them, or I've written about them in some cases in my sort of Substack posts and things like that. So there's lots of ideas out there, and you've got to find out things that resonate with your audience initially. So if you've done a video before that was really sort of engaging for the audience and it's got a lot of views, then maybe turn some of that content into a more sort of detailed webinar. And we'll come on to call to actions and things like that a little bit later. But those are really good points, Martins, particularly around the story side, because you do want to be able to sort of talk to people specifically in that story format, because that resonates more with people and captures their sort of imagination. And one thing that I've been told is, like, you don't have to sell them the thing straight away. If you looked at, we were talking about this on another podcast a couple of days ago, if you looked at Alex Amosi's huge book sell that he did, you know, he broke all those records at $100 million book sell. 95% of the time, he was actually solving people's problems in a consultative role on his live stream. He wasn't really selling the book. You know, the book is basically selling itself. It's all his expertise, and the way that he sort of works with people was really sort of formulated around that. So you don't always have to, you know, go in for the hard sell regards the topic of the webinar. You can basically address people's issues and things like that on the webinar, and then the outcome would be, well, I actually have a course, I have a cohort, I have something that you can actually sort of take away with you today afterwards. And the purpose of the webinar really is to engage people and get people connected with you, so you can basically, you know, feed them later with other offers and things that you have. Lots of questions coming in, so maybe I'll pause real quick and see if these comments work again. So first of all, hello, Saeed. Hello from Germany, of course. How are you doing? So it's a good question from Saeed. We have touched on it from our side, but if it's a single I'll go first. So question from Saeed is, what is the perfect length in your opinion? I think if it's a single person talking about sort of one subject, then 45 minutes is great. If you can do like a 45-minute webinar with maybe a 5-minute Q&A or something like that, or you do a 30-minute webinar and have 50 minutes for Q&A, then that is a really sort of good length, in my opinion anyway. Ours is 1 hour and a half because we've got 2 people, so 2 30-minute slots and some Q&A questions and things like that. But what about you, Martin? What's your thoughts on the ideal length of this will be an online webinar to start with. We will talk about in-person webinars in a moment.
Yeah, I think that's about right, because most people will drift off. They'll have something else that they need to do. So unless they are super engaged, they'll come back and watch the replay. So 45 minutes is good. An hour and a half, I like the hour and a half element of it for us, because we've specifically chosen to run over what is lunchtime in the UK. So it's 1300 to 2:30, and in the USA that'll be 8:30 till 8 o'clock till 9:30 Eastern time. So that kind of works quite well for people who are having their breakfast or having their lunch, etc.
Yeah.
So it is definitely a question of good morning, good evening, good lunchtime, whatever it is, wherever you are, type of thing. But that we're finding that works quite well. And I couldn't quite believe at first that people were going to sit and watch YouTube at 8 o'clock in the morning or join the Zoom clock at 8 o'clock in the morning in the US, but they do. They,
Yeah.
they're having their breakfast, they're having their coffee. Hey, let's go watch Neil and Martin and their lovely guests talking about something that I'm interested in first thing in the morning. And maybe they log off at 9 o'clock because they're taking the kids to school or something like that. But it works. And I think 45 minutes for one topic is good. Hour and a half, it is about the max. I don't think you really want to go much beyond that because people would have to be really dedicated to want to stay on that long. You know, it's time. It's time to do something else after you've watched a full game of football, effectively. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And it depends on your audience as well, because, you know, there'll be a lot of people that are either getting ready for work or at work because of the time that we've picked. We've also found that Friday seems to be good because it's sort of towards the end of the week. We don't tend to try and do end of the week, end of the quarter, end of the month type of things, because those can be really, really busy times for people in sort of industry. So you want to try and avoid those. But I know Saeed is here and a few other people. So let us know in the comments how you choose your times and your days for going live on your webinars as well. Because obviously, with us being here in Europe, we can join webinars at sort of all different times. And for us, sometimes we have these webinars that are going on at sort of midnight, which is a bit late for us. And if you've got people in of the time frame, and that's not a terrible thing as well. I think you can do that if it's a 45-minute webinar where you're doing it yourself. But if you've got guests, that could be more difficult. So Saeed's got a couple of comments, as I thought he would. Thanks, Saeed, for your comments. So he's mentioned there is an old German saying, the one-eyed man is king among, missed that, the blind. Yeah, meaning you don't have to know everything to be the expert, just more than your audience. Yeah. I applied that to my IT consulting skills. You've just got to keep a little bit more above the customers that you're working with to be able to help them through these things. But it's also good to have experts on there who can help broaden your own sort of technical knowledge as well. And that's why we love bringing our guests on, because obviously we don't know everything about everything and we don't profess to do. Let the experts in their niche talk to the audience and ourselves, and we can all learn something ourselves. Saeed also said to try and avoid Mondays and Fridays. Oh, interesting. Trying to avoid Mondays and Fridays. Let us know why that is. Do you think Fridays is like clocking off time and people are just trying to rush and get everything done before the weekend, and that's why people tend to be more busy? I mean, I've seen that as well. I guess it depends what industry you're in. What's your thoughts about that, Martin?
Yeah, I mean, there's two ways of looking at it, isn't it? Most people, if you're running a face-to-face event, everybody wants to do them Tuesday, maybe, but certainly Wednesday or Thursday. Those are the days everybody wants to do face-to-face events, and they don't want to do them on a Friday, because traditionally on a Friday, if people go to an event, they've got to get home after the event, so they don't really want to be travelling down to London, Manchester, wherever it happens to be, and then at 5 o'clock in the evening, they're getting on a plane or a train to go back home, to arrive home at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night. So they're not going to want to do that on a Friday. So that's why real events, face-to-face events, tend not to happen on Fridays. Monday is normally the day that everybody is getting prepared for their week ahead. So Monday's really a no-go day for face-to-face events. So they all happen in the middle of the week. And a lot of webinars also happen in the middle of the week. So it's a matter of opinion. But you may want to choose a Friday because other people aren't doing a Friday, and therefore you're not going to be in competition with others if you're doing that. For us, peak time for webinars is quite definitely Thursday evening between 6 and 8 UK time. Everybody does them on a Thursday evening between 6 and 8. And if you want to guarantee that you're going to clash with 5 other people doing WebExes, then they're going to say, oh, the best time is between 6 and 8 on a Thursday. Well, it's not if you're competing with 5 other people in the same space as you. So, that's something to be considered, is just doing something at a time that's different from everybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. You don't want to be clashing with everybody else, because then you just increasing the level of competition. Saeed says that he usually does around 6 p.m. Central European time. because he doesn't want to talk to anybody in the morning. Or we don't want to talk to him early in the morning. Oh, Said, I don't believe that. Well, we'll find out. We'll have to have a very early webinar session and invite you on as a guest, and we'll see how grumpy you can possibly. I don't believe it for 1 minute, but let's find out, shall we? All right, so those are really good sort of points in terms of sort of timings and things like that. I think we'll talk about hybrid events shortly, but let's now move on and talk about platforms and terminology, because you had a really sort of, I think, an ingenious idea at the time that we were talking about these workshops. Because a little bit of history, Martin and I have been working on going live to LinkedIn, and we're still going live to LinkedIn this evening as well. And we created a course on how to set up yourself on going live on LinkedIn. But there seems to be some issue, stigma, one of a better term, something associated with the terminology of going live on LinkedIn. So maybe you want to just take this one and how you came about sort of maybe changing the terminology, but giving it the same sort of points behind it.
Yeah, I think what I really came up with was, I think LinkedIn Live is a great idea, but it's still a big shock to people on LinkedIn that you're going live on LinkedIn. And I bet there are hundreds of people who've never watched a LinkedIn Live because it's a new terminology. Oh, what's this weird LinkedIn Live thing? Oh, I don't know if I want to go to that. Everybody will be able to see me on the LinkedIn Live, and I don't want to appear to thousands of people on LinkedIn, and it could be embarrassing. Or I'll have thousands of salespeople chasing me the minute I appear on a LinkedIn Live watching it, or they'll be able to collect my details when I register for a LinkedIn Live. And therefore, I think at the moment LinkedIn Live is not doing nearly as well as it potentially should do, because people are just a bit scared of it, because it's weird, it's different. So I just came up with the idea of telling everybody we're running a WebEx or a webinar, whichever you want to call it, and we'll come to, Neil's going to discuss that terminology in a minute. But just say, come and join us on a WebEx or a webinar, and suddenly we got a much greater response than just saying, come and join us on a LinkedIn Live, because people are not scared of coming to a webinar or a WebEx. They're totally used to doing that day in, day out. So as a result, just that pure terminology switch made things a lot better. So we're still going live on LinkedIn, and we're still running effectively a live Zoom session. But if people are going to the live Zoom session or webinar, they're comfortable with that. If they're going to LinkedIn Live, not so much.
Yeah.
But there are a few bits of terminology to pick up on in there as well, because we're running Ecamm and Zoom at the moment to create what you're watching. And it's actually, if we were going live as we are tomorrow, we're going live with a Zoom event and not a webinar or a WebEx. Maybe you want to tell people the difference, Neil.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. So I'm just going to draw. So we always go, we do our webinars, but we actually host them on a Zoom meeting. And it's just a simple Zoom meeting, right? And the reason why we do a Zoom meeting is because we like to see people's faces join us on our sessions, right? So if you actually host a Zoom webinar, because Zoom also has the term webinar or event, then you get to the point where it's just almost like a multicast. You are presenting to nobody. You basically have a Q&A, you have a chat, and then you have the ability to have audio and no video. So there's no video associated with a Zoom sort of webinar thing. So if you want to just do your presentation, put up your presentation stuff, and then just talk to nobody with not a lot of feedback, you can't see people nodding or whatever, hopefully they have the cameras on and things, then it's a little bit of a different atmosphere for presenting. And that's exactly what it's like on LinkedIn. You don't have that feedback on LinkedIn. There's nobody, physically that you could see in there. Nobody's coming in on cameras like they are on a Zoom meeting. So for me, when Martin mentioned, well, let's just have a webinar, but we'll host it on Zoom, is a really good idea because we're just having a Zoom meeting collectively. It's a webinar. It's going out. We're multicasting to various places, and we're doing that via Restream. I can explain that a little bit later. But effectively, that's what we're doing. So we're just having a nice closed group Zoom meeting with everybody coming in. We can see people's faces. They can interact. They can start by being on mute, and then they can talk and speak up if they want to. But we can see them. We can interact. We could even bring them into the show if we wanted to, if they had something compelling to say and they wanted to talk. So that's effectively what we do with our sessions. And we just use, Ecamm Live, which is what we're using now, and we're just running a Zoom call as we speak, and then we just basically go into Zoom, and then we just push it out via Restream, which is then streaming to LinkedIn Live. It's going to X. I'm actually going to Kick tonight. I'm going to YouTube. And we're going everywhere. So, and that's the point. We can still do that, but we would like to have people join us actually in the room so we can have a chat, and we can also bring them in before the webinar starts. Have a little bit of chat in the green room. And then when the webinar ends, they can have a little private Q&A if they want as well. So anyway, that's the reasoning sort of why we're doing it. And I actually really like that approach and Martin's idea about, well, let's not bother with the terminology of LinkedIn Live. Let's just do a webinar, and then we can actually go live to LinkedIn as well. And there's a couple of comments about LinkedIn that you might find a little bit amusing. So let's just throw that out there a second. So, first off, Evangelist, thank you very much. I think that's how I'm saying your name right. If I'm not, please tell me. He says that LinkedIn Live sucks. There you go. Well, maybe you want to explain a little bit more about that as well. Saeed says, a lot of LinkedIn Lives actually do feel rather boring. Not ours, of course. Well, thank you, Saeed, for saying that. But they do. They seem to be more like a sales pitch. And I think the thing with LinkedIn Live as well is if you're representing a company, I think you've got to be careful about what you say as well, right? There are sort of T's and C's, there's HR involved, there's marketing. You really don't want to be saying something you shouldn't on a webinar if you're a representative of that company. Plus, you've got your colleagues, you've got your competition, you've got your customers, you've got all kinds of people out there on LinkedIn. And maybe that's some of the reasons why people don't feel that compelled to go live on LinkedIn. So is that on point, do you think? There are some other reasons why people don't go? Because you've obviously spent a lot of time on LinkedIn. Is there anything else I've missed there about LinkedIn?
No, I think that's right. I mean, I am absolutely certain that nearly every company will ban all of their employees for going live on LinkedIn. They will only have, one person who is responsible for going live on LinkedIn, because exactly that, lawsuits and all sorts can follow if you say the wrong thing on LinkedIn or on any other social media platform. You just won't be able to do it. And the other thing is that most people who are on LinkedIn are expecting people now to try and sell them something. That's exactly what they're expecting. So they think, I'll turn up to LinkedIn Live and somebody's going to try and sell me something. And that is what most people are trying to do with LinkedIn Live at the moment. So there are some big barriers to get over. And one that I mentioned earlier on is this whole thing of, if I put my name down, people will know that I'm watching this, and somebody's going to then see the delegate list and is going to come and pick on me and deluge me with emails saying, hey, do you want some website development? I've got an offshore team of people, blah, blah, blah. I get one of those every day, an email offering me that sort of services. After, of course, they've read my profile and found it very interesting, but then not mentioned anything that they're particularly interested about other than, oh, you looks like you're doing some great work and I'm really interested. And by the way, I've got a team of offshore developers who can do exactly what you need them to. Right, okay.
Yeah, that seems to be the thing. And, obviously, people want to try and pitch you something. At the end of the day, you're putting a lot of effort into these webinars and so on, but it shouldn't all be salesy. I'm a big believer in trying to give as much value for free as possible, and the customers will follow, particularly if you then, having this webinar, being able to get some email addresses, then you've got your own email list that you can start to sort of curate and start to push out gently certain things that you may have in terms of offers and stuff like that. So there's nothing wrong with it, but it shouldn't be, all about that. And I think those types of webinars are pretty pretty rough. And Saeed is basically calls them seminars, which I think is really good. You know, it's not a webinar. You're trying to sell them stuff. Hello, Jill. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you're finding this content as compelling as we are. So yeah, it's fun, and I'm interested in all about sort of webinars and things like that. And there's a lot of free stuff on the Ecamm channel, and the Ecamm community push out a lot of free good stuff out there as well. And I do believe that it's good for the community to you know, give a little bit back without having the hard sell all the time. Anything else on sort of webinars and other crazy stuff in terms of selling and LinkedIn Lives before we move on to other bits and pieces?
No, I just think that LinkedIn Live has got massive potential, but there are a few hurdles to get over, and it's purely mental hurdles from people who are just not used to the interaction side, in particular, of a LinkedIn Live. So we've done plenty of LinkedIn Lives, and you go, oh, I think there's quite a few people watching, and then they're not interacting, and they just are a little bit scared to interact, unlike all of our friends on Facebook and YouTube who love to get in there early and type stuff and say who they are and where they're calling in from. LinkedIn is kind of, ooh, I'm watching, but you don't know I'm watching.
Yeah, it's a little bit stealthy, isn't it? Jill's raised a good point, and Jill, you must come on the show at some point in the future and just talk about this, because she's saying our Economic Development Corporation here in your hometown is being intentional about streaming into LinkedIn, featuring interviews and guests and not sales, which has been great. Well, that's interesting, and a lot of people are embracing LinkedIn Live, don't get me wrong. I just think, as Martin mentioned before, there's a little bit of stigma associated with it. It's a bit of a cautious way of going live, as opposed to being a little bit more relaxed in yourself, as we're doing here on YouTube and others.
I think the other...
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say the other thing about it is, and this is the big deal with LinkedIn Live, is that post-live, it's really difficult to find the content.
Yes.
So if you've done a live, it's not like YouTube and you can go and search for the content. On LinkedIn Live, it's almost impossible to find the content after it's gone live. If you've gone live to your own channel as opposed to a corporate page, then they even remove thumbnails and things like that, which were there for your lives. So your previous lives will all be there in a row, but it won't have your thumbnails for them.
It looks messy.
It does do that. If you stream to a corporate page, it's a lot better. You can find previous content and you can find all your thumbnails. It's a bit more like YouTube. But if you're streaming to your own page, none of that exists. And at this moment in time, bizarre though it is, I mean, LinkedIn has more personal data about you than any other platform on the planet. They know where you went to school, they know all the jobs you've had, they know what you've interacted with, they know what you're posting about. They belong to Microsoft, who've got a massive AI investment. You would think it would be very, very obvious and easy to then say, oh, because you watched this video, you might be interested in the following LinkedIn Lives that are up and coming. But they don't do that.
Yeah.
It's only got to be a matter of time before somebody joins the dots and says, oh, hang on, I know that Neil's an ex-IT consultant and he lives in Portugal and he's interested in live streaming. And hey, there's a new LinkedIn Live scheduled that are talking about live streaming in Portugal. Maybe he would be interested in that. Yeah. Yes, he would, but he doesn't know it's happening. So nobody's told him.
They're not really pushing that out.
AI has all the information.
Yeah.
LinkedIn has the biggest database on the planet of detailed information about you. I mean, you think about it. YouTube has nothing, absolutely nothing. And yet they seem to be able to recommend things to you based on just what you've watched before. Mm-hmm. They don't have any of the other background information at all. Yeah. LinkedIn has everything, and it's just not being used.
You think they would use it more intuitively and said, they're missing a trick from a marketing perspective, right? In terms of just pushing this out. I don't know. LinkedIn is not all about jobs anymore. There's lots of other things going on there. Saeed mentioned that what he learned to try and apply is show the what and sell the how. Yeah, that's really important. I think it's, show what is possible, and then you can sell them how to do that. Like if you want to build a show like this, we can definitely help you how to do it. And we're showing you how, showing you the what right now. Jill mentions that regarding the LinkedIn, she has, they have very little interaction on LinkedIn Live, lots of post comments, but it's just not a culture of being in the chat. Yeah, that's the thing. I think people have been encouraged in the past to post comments either after the fact or actually do LinkedIn posts, text posts and things like that. This concept of live streaming on LinkedIn is still a little bit in its infancy. And as Martin said, with LinkedIn being one of the biggest and oldest social platforms out there, you'd think they'd be a little bit more on point with that. But who knows what's going to come down the pipe. But I think from a corporate perspective, lots of companies and institutions are missing a trick by not actually posting and seeing people in real life on LinkedIn. And maybe that'll change, but we're still fighting the fight, and we're still going to be looking at doing some more vertical live streams in the not too distant future, like we did with LinkedIn as well. But there's nothing stopping us here. We're live on LinkedIn right now, and we've had no comments from anybody on LinkedIn, which is probably part of the course. So there you go. So if anybody's watching on LinkedIn live right now, just post me a comment. I just want to see you pop in to know that you're there. But anyway, let's move on then, if we can, to actually Jill has a question before I move on, so I'll look at my notes. How are the vertical videos doing on LinkedIn versus horizontal? Do you want to take this just based on what we've done in the past, Martin?
Yeah, well, based upon what we've done in the past, I guess we almost accidentally found out that we could go live doing vertical video on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And because I went to do it, I thought, I'm going to try this. And Ecamm flagged up a message for me saying, no, you can't go live vertically on LinkedIn. So I went to Ken and Glenn actually directly and said, can I really not go live vertically on LinkedIn? Or is this just a cautionary message that Ecamm's flagging up? And I think it was Glenn came back to me and said, oh yeah, that's just a precaution. I can take it off if you want. I said, yes, please. And he did. So basically what we did was you can create a vertical scene in Ecamm and then play that into Zoom. So effectively you've got a Zoom event which is in vertical format, and you can live stream that into Ecamm, into LinkedIn, and it looks absolutely terrible when it's live, because what happens is it appears as a tiny little strip in the middle of the screen, and it just looks awful when you're live. However, if you go and watch the replay after the live on your phone, it will appear full screen on your phone, and actually much better than any of the other platforms. So far better than Facebook and Instagram and all these other platforms that take up half the screen with comments. No, on LinkedIn it gives you a full screen on your phone off the replay in vertical, and it looks tremendously good. But live it looks terrible. So it's a bit of a weird one at the moment. We can only assume at some point they're going to allow you to stream live, because the replays actually all come in vertical format. They are 100% pushing vertical format at the moment on LinkedIn. I say 6 months ago they kept saying they were going to do it. In the last 6 months my feed is full of vertical videos being promoted on LinkedIn above any other type of content. Yep. 100% that's what it's doing at the moment. So I flick through my stream and I will see vertical videos above almost anything else in terms of content. So it's definitely happening, but there are still some bridges to cross between doing it live and watching the recordings or the feedback.
I think I get there, and it's fair to mention as well that a few months ago, a lot of people, I know you didn't get this, but a lot of people did get this extra video feed button in the LinkedIn Live application on their phones. So LinkedIn was doing some testing, and I think you mentioned to me that LinkedIn does this from time to time. They come up with these ideas, they throw it out into the community to see if it sort of takes off, and then they remove them shortly after. And that's exactly what they did with the vertical video piece. But that's not to say that you still can't do these vertical videos on LinkedIn. And as Martin just said, his feeds are getting flooded now with vertical videos. So from our perspective, we found that people were very interested in that. We were only going vertical. We weren't doing vertical and horizontal using the applications that we had at the moment. So we were just dedicating to do a vertical show. But if you go back and look on my sort of YouTube channel and Martin's, you'll see that there was a lot of interesting different sort of scene setups, different workflows. We had one particular show, I think, where we had like 7 people on using Ecamm for Zoom. So we were using Ecamm for Zoom in LinkedIn vertically with guests, little talking heads, and it worked really well. I mean, as you said, if you could look back actually at that video on the phone, it looked really, really professional and cool, and not like anything that anybody else is doing. People right now are just doing the TikTok type style videos and the talking heads on their phone. Nothing wrong with that, as we mentioned before, but if you want to do something different and a little bit quirky, well, you guys, we can do that. Well, Martin is anyway. Just a quick couple of comments. Thank you, Jill. Love you for that. Now she's on LinkedIn. See, so we are getting comments, and we're bringing these comments in via Restream, just to let you know, because LinkedIn's integration with Ecamm is not working 100%, and this is all on LinkedIn, nothing to do with Ecamm. LinkedIn just don't seem to reply to people. So yeah, very interesting. Thanks for sharing. It's worth dabbling with, at least, just to see what goes on with the vertical side of things. We like vertical video. There's a place for it. It's not going away, unfortunately, but vertical live is something that not a lot of people are doing at the moment. So I think there's definitely a market for it, and we'll see. And plus, LinkedIn Live, I think, does live captioning. So for people who are at work and should be working, they can actually see us and actually read the captions, so they can still get involved in what we're actually talking about, even though they can't actually hear us because they're not meant to be. They're meant to be doing their daily work.
The interesting thing was, I think we spoke to multiple LinkedIn experts and a few people who worked at LinkedIn, and they all went, "You can go live vertical on LinkedIn?" None of them had a clue.
It wasn't a thing,
None of them.
right? Yeah.
So.
Okay. Anyway, so quick comment from Saeed. Here's your LinkedIn comment. Thank you. It's another one. And as soon as we've gone live on LinkedIn, as Saeed says, it becomes LinkedIn dead. I see what you did there. You took the live element and very good. Very good. Okay, so next thing we were going to talk about is platforms. We've touched on this a little bit, but it's just worth mentioning that there is obviously any way that you can host your webinar. It's entirely up to you. I would like to talk to Martin a little bit about hybrid events and maybe when should you consider doing an in-person event versus a live event, and is there any mileage in doing a hybrid, depending on how big you are as an organization and whether you want to have that live event piece. But obviously, I've just written a few down here. So we've obviously got Google Meet. That's still out there, and it's free, right? It's a bit difficult in terms of sort of, I guess, getting people registered and stuff, but I don't know. It's pretty straightforward, but it's not my choice. And then we've got Microsoft Teams, which is the corporate tool of choice, because anybody who's in corporate gets a free Microsoft license, and they bundle in Microsoft Teams. So why not? I've been on many Microsoft Teams presentations and things, and they're just that, aren't they? They're just a Microsoft Teams presentation. I don't think we need to sort of go any deeper into that, but it could be better if you use something like Ecamm. Then you could spice up your Microsoft Teams presentation. We've got WebEx, which is owned now by Cisco, and yeah, that was the tool that I sort of used to work on a lot of the time before Zoom came along. It used to be WebEx or Teams, and those were the sort of the two main ones. But a lot of people go live to Facebook, and as you know, Facebook has changed the criteria, as they do from time to time, on the actual conditions that allow you to go live on the platform. And it is worth noting as well, Martin, isn't it, that LinkedIn Live also has stipulation. So what's the criteria before you can actually go live on LinkedIn? If you're just setting up a new LinkedIn Live profile, let's say it's a personal profile, can you remember what the sort of the criteria is for going live on LinkedIn real quick?
So you need to just have 150 followers or connections on LinkedIn to stream to a personal page. And it's the same number of followers that you need to have on a company page. So if you've got a company page, you need 150 followers. The downside of that is I think I've got 5,000 odd connections on LinkedIn. I do have a company page. It got hacked not that long ago. So as a result, I'm sort of back down to 0 followers. But even so, I don't think I had 150 followers on the company page because LinkedIn kind of killed off the company pages more or less when Microsoft took over, along with groups on LinkedIn as well. So it's going round in circles. Is LinkedIn? They're looking for ways to monetize things, and I think that they just want you to pay for additional features. But the company page streaming from that is a lot better, but you need to have 150 followers. It will just say no, you're not doing it otherwise.
Same thing with Facebook now. So they've changed their policy. So you must have at least 100 plus followers to go live. This is for group pages and professional profiles linked to pages. If you've got a personal profile on Facebook, you can go live straight away. The Facebook account must also be at least 60 days old to use it. And a new thing that they've introduced is that, similar to what happens with LinkedIn, you go live, as Martin mentioned, and then the videos disappear. Well, the same thing with Facebook now. Before, you could have a catalog and an archive of your Facebook videos. Now, after 30 days, they actually get auto-deleted. You can postpone the deletion for up to 6 months, but they will disappear eventually. So Saeed has another comment as well. It said, I think they're trying to push company pages to premium. Yeah, so what's that? It is premium, isn't it? LinkedIn Premium, that little gold thing that you can pay quite a bit for. And I think, obviously, if you're a big corporate, then it's peanuts in terms of paying for that. But if you're a solopreneur, somebody who's just starting off and want to use LinkedIn to build your business, then I think they should be offering something a little bit cheaper. Well, keep it free, basically. What's the harm in keeping a LinkedIn Live free? So I'm going to skip over one of the other sections, and let's just talk about, because this is dear to Martin, of course, and we're only 10 minutes away from the hour, which I thought we'd have plenty of time, but it's a normal case. So let's just talk about visual design and visual branding. We mentioned before, when Saeed was on the call a couple of weeks ago, Saeed's branding, and I'll mention it again, is always on point. Every time I see something from Saeed, every time I see something from Ecamm, every time I see something from various other people that I follow, you can tell it's them just from the email that you get. The branding is on point, the colors, the fonts, the style, the tone of writing. And that's what makes it really good and interesting when you're receiving this correspondence from people, because it's people that you love and you respect, and you can see that it's on point and their branding is always the same. So how important, Martin, is it for organizations, solopreneurs, businesses, and just people who are going live on doing their webinars? How important is it to have a decent looking sort of presentation? And what would ours look like if we didn't have these wonderful graphics and things that you do? So tell us about what you've been working on and on what's important to you.
Yeah, I think in a world where everybody looks the same, that you don't stand out. So if you are looking to stand out, then you need to look a little bit different from everybody else. And you can do that in a number of different ways, but keeping a constant look and feel and corporate image is definitely one way to do that. And there are obviously multiple ways you can do that in terms of adding your branding on your screen, but because we've got the beauty of Ecamm, we can add the branding around us as well. So it's an immersive experience. And I've been looking recently at creating what we call Ecamm profiles, which are just sets of scenes within Ecamm, and I've been using AI to give me some ideas for generating backgrounds that help me focus the eye on the presentation material in the center of the screen, but at the same time allow me space for branding and coloring and fonts and things like that outside the central image as well. So if I go and show you a couple of things I've just done today, so I've been running around like a headless chicken today, putting out a bunch of new sort of branded profiles for Ecamm. So if I just move to this scene here, we can see the new Stream Profiles website, and I don't need to be on the screen at all points, but you can already see from this particular view that what I have done is I've created a background which kind of goes in the way to focus on what's in the center of the screen. I've kept the upper and lower thirds, which traditionally, certainly for live streaming, are getting super bloated and full of information that people don't really need. I've kept those very sleek and minimal on these presentations. And what we can do through the beauty of Ecamm is just flick between me talking like this and me having a larger version of the presentation on screen, because I don't need to be on screen all the time. There's a temptation, because we've got Ecamm, to think that my camera needs to be on screen all the time. Well, it doesn't really have to be that way. So I've got all sorts of different designs going on here, but each one of them is designed to either focus the eye towards the center of the screen or be clean and simple and easy to digest. So let's just take this one down here. If I look at this particular design here, we can see that I've created a kind of an arc in the background, and you may not see it because it's kind of difficult perhaps on this screen, but there's some nice textural elements going on in the background. And actually I also have some light movement going on in the background, but there's plenty of room around the screen, even with 4 guests on, to have the branding plus the titles plus the actual guests themselves and their name placeholders, and it still feels like there's a lot of room. And in a real world, when this is live, then you've got a bit of moving background going on as well, which makes it look that much nicer still. But the whole point really is you don't have to have this just looking what you might consider to be a standard webinar. I've got all sorts of entirely different looking ones going on here, depending on what the look and feel is. So here's another sort of, I suppose, slightly more corporate look and feel, but I've changed the way that everything sits on the screen just to keep it looking nice and fresh and clean and simple. And that one is quite corporate, but I still like the way that looks and feels. So that's what I've been sort of playing about with, and it's, you know, it's taken a while to get there. But this is me just moving through a few of the different scenes that I have on this particular profile to show you what they would look like. And again, this one's designed to make it look like I'm a bit on a stage to some degree or another. And I can in fact indeed do things like change some tints and things in the background if I want to. So I'm not stuck with a particular colour. I can actually change my colour scheme fairly easily, or add a little bit of blur in the background if that's what I want to do as well. And I can do that on all of these different profiles. I can change them around just at a click of a button, and they'll look quite different depending on which profile I choose to use. So to me, it's about keeping things clean and tidy, but interesting enough that it looks different. That does not look like any Zoom meeting you will normally see. Even when it's just me in the center of the screen, it looks completely and utterly different from anything you'll have seen before. So that's why I'm looking a bit tired tonight. I've been busy putting all these pictures up onto a website, and
wonderful.
But yeah.
Well, at least you're showing people what you've been working on. I put a link in the chat on where people can go and grab your stuff. So it's stream profiles at sellify.store, and it looks really good what you've done. So great stuff there. I might be looking at some of those. I don't want to change anything. It's like, keep the branding on point, Neil. Don't keep messing around with that. I like this thing. I'm going to keep it now. Can't mess around with it. All right, let's just have a quick look. First of all, a big thank you, Saeed, for the super chat. Don't get many super chats on this channel, so thank you so much. You don't have to pay us for the endorsement, but it's super nice. Thank you so much. And, you know, we love the work that you do and everything that you have in terms of branding. So, but it's really appreciated supporting the channel. That'll buy me that'll buy me a bottle of wine, actually, here in Portugal, believe it or not. You won't be able to buy that everywhere. But there you go. Martin shaking his head going, what? $3? No chance.
What? I'll be doing, by the way, I'm thinking of doing a pink and yellow branded profile with llamas around the edge. But you will have to buy Ecamm if you're going to use that.
There you go. You heard it here first. And it's just a special ring-fenced profile that nobody else has got access to. It's an exclusive just for Saeed, of course, because, you know. Okay, what else? that we're going to talk about real quick before we get to the top of the hour. So, just some of the platforms.
What's coming up?
What's coming up? Let's talk about that. What's coming up, shall we? Because we've only got 5 minutes. Okay, let's do that.
We've only got a couple of minutes. Oh, it's over that shoulder. It's that shoulder.
Yeah. So as you can see, Martin's superhero theme for tomorrow. So this is what we've got coming up. There is still time to register. We have a wonderful free webinar going on tomorrow featuring Katie Fawkes from Ecamm and Lux from Stream Alive. They're going to be talking all about community. That's community building, community and audience engagement and interaction, keeping that chat going, why you should build a community, what's important, and so on. And if people haven't built a community yet, that could be a YouTube community, Facebook, it doesn't matter. Community is bringing people together. Then this is the webinar for you. So come and join us tomorrow. It's 8 a.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. UK. Scan, not click, scan that QR code. You can grab the free webinar information. It's in the chat as well. And I just absolutely love this superhero theme, the Men in Black type of thing there. Those shades are really good, Martin. Any particular designer label you have on those shades? We won't give the game away there, but looks really cool. I really like this superhero theme. We just got to keep this going, I think, unless you come up with a new super idea for next year. But there you go.
No, that's going to keep going till other people start copying it, and until such points, we'll keep doing that. And the interesting thing here is that the image, which is not that shoulder but over that shoulder behind me, is sitting on a large monitor, and it's a large PC actually. And because of the way cameras work, I had to darken the image right down, so the actual image is way brighter than that. But I found that in the background, it was flooding the background with light, so that image is now much darker in that background than it is if you look at it on a standard screen.
That's interesting.
So just minor challenges with lighting and things like that, but I have now attempted to balance my lighting with my background here, which is another tip for people who are looking at their corporate images and look and feels and things like that, that taking colours from your background, which is your physical background, and then dropping them into your virtual background is definitely something that it's worth considering. Your image will match way better if you blend it between what's on your real world stage and what is around you. And I think Syed does that. I don't know whether he does it accidentally or on purpose, but he definitely does that. He's got pink and yellow lights behind him, pink and yellow on the actual surrounds for his borders. So it does make a big difference to have that as opposed to something which is totally jarring in terms of colours and designs with the rest of what's going on.
Yeah, and that's what I've used as well. So over here, you know, with the yellow light and sort of the purple. In fact, it doesn't really look that purple behind me, but it does blend quite well with this background. And you'll see tomorrow I'll be using the same lighting, and it will look super nice. So that's us. It's actually the top of the hour already. It's already 9 o'clock. So I just want to ask you a question as well. Did you have anything to eat before you came on the show?
Yeah, I had.
Okay. Well, that's why we have to end the show now, because Martin's not had a full meal, and that could go horribly wrong. So thanks everybody who's joined us tonight for your wonderful questions, your super chats, your support, and all the love in the room. So really appreciate that. If you do get a chance to watch this on the replay, there's still time to go and check out our free webinar for tomorrow. We're looking forward to it. We've got quite a few people registered already. It's going to be super fun. It's early for Katie and Lux joining us. We'll have had a full meal. We'll have had lunch. We'll be ready to go. Those people will just be at the peak because they'll have just got up and ready to rock and roll. So really looking forward to that. Any closing comments from you, Martin? These prices are going to stay as they are at the moment on your site, right? You haven't got any sort of timed pricing going on, or is it just going to be as it is right now?
It's kind of a low cost at the moment. The cost will go up in time once I've had a chance to play about, make the profiles a little bit larger. They will go up, but there's already been several people. I just literally a couple of hours ago put it out, and I see there are several downloads already of people grabbing the profiles. There's definitely some hardcore fans out there who
Good.
can't wait to get hold of the latest profile and play about with it. So yeah, I look forward to seeing that, and maybe at some point over the weekend myself and Neil will do some sort of explainer video, a little bit more detail on how to use the profiles and how to get the most from them. Not done that just yet, because most people who already have got a profile probably understand the basic principles of how to do things. And we've also been experimenting this evening, if anybody's noticed, with a little bit of a pop every now and again on the background and on the cameras. So Neil has done that for us this evening, and I'm kind of liking just the randomness of occasionally popping the screen just a little bit bigger and the background just a little bit bigger to break up what otherwise would be us sitting statically for a whole hour. So,
yeah, I like it. It's good. I'm going to keep it going. And thanks for the inspiration that you posted on Facebook to do that. There's always creative ways of making use of live transitions and things like that. So this is definitely one of them, without being too crazy and making people sick. Anyway, thanks a lot for joining us, everybody. As we said, we got our webinar tomorrow. Sorry, you want to say something real quick?
No, thanks Saeed, thanks Jill, thanks everybody else for joining us. We'll see you hopefully tomorrow. Looking forward to that one. Definitely.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow, and I'll be live on Sunday doing my test stuff, whatever I'm doing. I'm not sure what I'm playing with this week. I might be playing with Nano Banana again, because now you can create lower thirds and weird things with it. So I'll be experimenting with that, and then maybe telling Martin what I've found, or it might just break horribly. But, you know, we're doing it live. It's a test. Who cares? All right, we'll see you all tomorrow. Thanks for joining us. And, yeah, see you tomorrow. Take it easy. Bye.
Cheerio.